Hello, and welcome back to another episode of General Conference Conversations, the podcast where we have conversations about General Conference. I'm your host, Kaylin, and I'm super excited to be here with you today, discussing today's episode, or today's talk, excuse me. Today we get to talk about Elder Nielson's talk. And it's called A Record of What I Have Both Seen and Heard. And as always, I encourage you to listen to or watch or read this talk before you come and listen to me talk about it, so you can get your own insights and promptings and everything like that. This is a very unique, I guess I don't want to say unique talk because it's there's a lot of talks like this, but it's one that's kind of always hard for me to talk about because it's his testimony. It is, 8 minutes? 11 minutes, 12, almost 12 minutes just of his testimony, and just like his experiences as a general authority. And those are always a bit harder for me to make episodes about because they're pretty straightforward, right? Unless I go through every single point that he's testifying about, right? Which could either be an extremely long episode, or it would just be me reading his talk, which is not what you're here for and not what I make these videos about. But short and sweet summary is that he shares his witness, his testimony of the restoration of the gospel and the growth of the church throughout the world. And he talks about missionaries and temples and members living their lives as witnesses to the power of Christ's atonement. And he really just lists a lot of different things. But what I want to say, he lists a lot of different things, that's not right, but he talks about his experiences as a general authority and as mission president and being part of the mission department, traveling to a lot of different places and seeing the gospel in a lot of different countries and seeing kind of the restoration roll forth, right? And the Book of Mormon, traveling to all these different places around the world, and the church growing in all of these different places around the world. And he starts off by talking about the reason he's giving this talk the way he is because part of his job as a 70 is to be a special witness unto the Gentiles in all the world. And so he's like, well, I'm going to give my witness. I'm going to be my witness. I'm going to be a witness. I'm going to give my witness to all these things that I've seen. And so I really want to talk about this witness, right? He talks a lot about this. He starts off talking about when he went to law school, and he specialized in trial law, and so that meant he worked with a lot of witnesses, preparing witnesses to testify at trial. And so it's so interesting to me the way he talks about this. So this is the one quote that we're going to talk about today. He says, "It didn't take long for me to realize that the very same terms I was using every day as a lawyer were also the terms I used in my gospel conversations. Witness and testimony are terms that we use as we share our knowledge and feelings about the truthfulness of the gospel of Jesus Christ." And I had a lot of thoughts, and so I'm trying to package them into a way that is going to make sense when I'm done speaking about it. So the very, very first thing that I thought about when I read this talk, and this part specifically, was this girl that I taught on my mission. She had converted to Catholicism after watching The Passion of the Christ. I had never watched The Passion of the Christ, so I just never have. But she talked about like watching the crucifixion scene specifically and being very moved with like the suffering that Christ went through for us. And so I think she was Catholic. Now I'm not thinking, maybe not, she wasn't Catholic. Anyway, I don't remember her specific denomination, but she was very devout and very curious about other religions. And so I don't remember exactly how she stumbled upon, the Come Unto Me website or something and requested a Book of Mormon. And so, of course, in requesting a Book of Mormon, often you get a meeting with missionaries. You get you get them coming to your door. You don't just get a Book of Mormon mailed to you. You get missionaries. And so I believe, so she had gotten one from the Family Ward Sisters. I was in YSA at the time, and she was YSA age, so they passed her off to us. And it became very clear very quickly that, one, she was mostly just curious about other religions. She wasn't really looking to join. But she was also very bold in her testimony, and like she just was very forward, very bold, and which was great and also really hard for especially someone like me who had a very soft-spoken, very like distinct, shy, kind of timid. I grew a lot. I did much better on my mission than I was before, but still a little terrifying sometimes. And she straight up told us one day, she was like, we asked her, like, why are you here? Why do you keep meeting with us, right? Why? And she basically told us, she's like, well, if I'm right and you're wrong, I want to tell you that so that I can save you, basically, so you can be saved. So you can leave this church and you can come join mine. But if you're right and I'm wrong, well, then I want to join your church and I want to be saved. And basically, I don't want to make a mistake. And which, on the surface, great, right? You want to find the best fit. You want to find the quote-unquote true church, right? But just the way that she went about it, it was very clear that she had already made her mind up about our church. Anyway, this is a long story. This is a long way of saying this, but she was very stuck on the Book of Mormon and the witnesses of the Book of Mormon, and the fact that we didn't have the gold plates anymore, and we don't have like pictures or like anything like that. We just have the witnesses, right? We just have the 3 witnesses and 8 witnesses, and then of course Joseph Smith witness. And so we have this back and forth with her all of the time, and trying to explain like, well, but you never saw Jesus, right? But you have a witness of him, you have faith in him, just like all this stuff over and over. It's just this big point of like, oh, it can't be true. You don't have any proof. You don't have proof. And that was her big thing. And she's like, you have to know. You have to have proof. And we were like, faith doesn't have proof, right? Faith, in definition, means something you can't see, something you can't touch. Knowledge is having it right in front of you. Anyway, so we finally brought this up in a district council one day, and we were like, how do we talk about this, right? If she wants to keep meeting, we'll keep meeting, but how do we, like, what would you say to this? How do you even discuss something like this? And somebody finally was like, well, we only have eyewitnesses to the resurrection of Jesus, right? Like, we don't have a body. We don't have, right? Like, we don't have a picture of Christ rising from the dead. We have the eyewitnesses of the apostles. And we were like, oh, well, yeah, duh, right? And so for our next meeting, we brought it up, we talked to her about it, and we were like, so you're really stuck on this, the witnesses thing and the Book of Mormon, we don't have the plates, and like all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, like we have proof of Christ's resurrection. And we were like, what proof do you have of Christ's resurrection? And she's like, well, all the Gospels, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all the apostles. And we were like, right, eyewitnesses. And she's like, well, but it's recorded in the Bible. And we're like, it's their recorded eyewitnesses. Just like the recorded eyewitnesses of the plates of the Book of Mormon. And it stopped her a little bit. I don't remember where the conversation went after that, but I remember her being a little bit stumped. She was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess so. And I don't remember. I'm sure she directed it to some other thing, and we got our way off tangent. And I don't say that to be like, haha, we got her, right? Like, ooh, clap back. Although it did feel a little bit like a victory to be like, no, like we're not talking about knowledge here. We're talking about faith. And anyway, and so I just think it's so fascinating to think about this, right? Like, he is saying that in just a paragraph before this quote, he talks about facts are determined in courtrooms by witnesses. And if you want to win a trial, you need to have witnesses. You need to have someone who said, I saw this person do this thing on this day at this time in this place, right? And then you can convince the jury, and the jury makes their ruling, verdict, whatever. Not, they don't make the ruling, but they make their verdict and the judge makes the ruling. And so, and of course there's more to it than that, right? Like, they have evidence, they have fingerprints, they have DNA, like there's a lot of things that go into a trial, and so there can be concrete evidence, right? But when concrete evidence doesn't exist, or it's something like, I don't know, something that doesn't necessarily have evidence, right? Like a crime, I'm trying to think of something that like doesn't necessarily like leave a paper trail. But you have witnesses, right? Witnesses are super important, and that's what can determine facts and define the way that a trial goes. But at the end of the day, you are trusting in this person to be truthful. You're trusting in this person to be truthful and also to have actually seen what they think they saw, right? And that takes a lot of trust. Like, unless you have a video, that's not a witness anymore. That's evidence, right? You're trusting in this witness, they're trusting in this person to tell the truth about whatever they saw, or to have seen it in the first place, right? And so, I don't know, I just, like, I have a really hard time with people saying, oh, I know the church is true, or I know this or that, and I know, and maybe they've had conversations with God, right? Maybe the apostles, and I don't doubt this for a second, the apostles have seen Jesus, right? And they say, I know Christ lives. Then it's like, oh, wow, like, maybe they actually have seen him face to face, right? But I don't know that God is out there. I believe he is. I have great, deep faith because of the things that I've experienced. I choose to believe that they are not coincidences. I choose to believe that they are acts of God, that they are tender mercies from heaven. And at the end of the day, I can't prove that they are him. I can't prove that I feel comforted because of Jesus. I can't prove that I'm healed because, like, somebody was healed because of a priesthood blessing. Like, you can't prove that, right? Beyond the shadow of a doubt with scientific evidence, I'm doing that a lot, etc., etc. I don't know why I picked but whatever. Anyway, it's all based on faith. At the end of the day, we are all working on the faith that the things we experience are from God. And we are all working on the witnesses of others as well. Like, we have our own experiences, right? We have our own experiences with the divine. Whether that's, the Spirit testifying to us, we feel the Spirit, we read the scriptures, we whatever, right? And we all have the ability to have a conversation and to have a connection with God through prayer and through personal revelation and through scripture study. But other times, like, we are all sharing in each other's witnesses and each other's testimonies. What do you think testimony meeting is all about, right? We get together and we share our witness. We share our testimonies with everybody. We share that with each other, and we build our testimonies based on other people's testimonies. Now, it's not the entire thing, right? And it shouldn't be. Like, my entire testimony should not be based on my husband's or my mother's or my best friend's. I should also have some of my own. But my mom's and my husband's and my best friend's, their testimonies build mine, because I see how it affects their life. I see how the gospel changes them. And I think, wow, that's amazing. I believe that that's from God. And so, like, this whole talk is Elder Nielson's witness. This is his testimony. This is the things that he's heard and seen, and he chooses to believe, and he testifies that he believes that these are the result of God's influence in the world and the influence of the gospel of Jesus Christ to set these things in motion and to help people and to change people's lives. And he's bearing that witness to us. He's bearing his testimony to us to help strengthen our testimony and to encourage us to go and have our own experiences and try to put our faith and trust into Jesus Christ, and then to go and witness that to others. Just this chain reaction over and over and over again. And I don't know, and our witness is important too, right? Just because we're not a 70 doesn't mean we're not called to be witnesses. We have a different calling than a 70, obviously, but we are still called to witness Christ in our lives. And so I think, I don't know, I hope I'm like putting together and saying this the way that I want to say it, but this just testified to me and witnessed to me, like, this is all faith, and the power of faith is amazing. And I think faith can be even more powerful than knowledge sometimes when it comes to something like this, because you're choosing to think this, like, I don't know, I'm trying to like really wrap my mind around it and put it into words, kind of the feeling that I got reading this talk and just like some of the things that I realized as I was like reading this talk. But like our testimonies, the truth that we see in our lives, the experiences that we have that are true to us, we get to witness that. We get to choose if we believe that's from God or if it's just a coincidence. And we get to share that with others, and we get to build on other people's witnesses. And so, in that spirit, what has being a witness of Jesus Christ meant in your life? And that can be a million different things, right? I talk about this all the time, and I love the phrase in one of my favorite podcasts: your mileage may vary, right? The way that you witness Jesus Christ may be going out and being an evangelical, being a preacher. That sounds bad, but like going out and bearing your testimony, and you say, and like literally saying it to somebody's face, well, this is because I have God in my life, right? Or it could be a bit more subtle, where you say, maybe you don't say it, you live it, right? Maybe you are just going about your life, your quiet life, and people see it, and people see how you're affected and how you're different because of the things that you do and the things that you experience. But what has that been like for you? What has being a witness of Jesus Christ meant in your life? What does that look like for you? I think as you think about that, and you might think that you aren't, but I think everybody is in their own way. We are witnessing the small moments in our lives that are the result of the atonement of Jesus Christ. And we can see that. That's being a witness. And then as we talk to other people, that's also being a witness. You witness it just to yourself, right? You say, oh, that was Jesus. That was God. That is being a witness of Jesus Christ in your life. So think about that. I think this just blew my mind as I was reading it, and we have talked about one quote from here. The rest, we talked about like 10% of his talk. The rest is just his testimony and his witness of all the things that he's seen. Just as we read about in the scriptures, these are people's witnesses. This is people's experiences with God. They're, what's the phrase from the introduction to the Book of Mormon? It's something about their interactions with the divine. It's one of my favorite phrases ever. It's like their dealings with God, and like this is us saying, hey, I believe this was God in my life. What do you think? Right? This is so powerful. It's so powerful. Anyway, that is all I've got for you guys today. Please read the rest of this talk, and I really want to hear your thoughts about this. I know I say that every time, but I really do. I really want to engage and discuss this and just hear your thoughts. So comment, send me a message, send me an email. I'm over on Instagram and Facebook. You can comment over there on the post for this particular episode. Please, I'd love to hear from it. So, and yeah, I'll talk to y'all next time.